Okay, got it.
Welcome to Fresh Off the Boat. My name is Arjun Seth, and this is a podcast in times of COVID. The effort is to connect our current students with students I've worked with in the past. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Dhruv Singh. He graduated from AES in 2014 and then went to Skidmore College in upstate New York. And so the first question to you, Dhruv, is how was it like moving from Gurgaon, Delhi, and landing in upstate New York in a small town, I would say, and then settling in at the college environment?
I think it was, it was definitely a little tough initially, just because I think not so much the move from Gurgaon to the U.S., but more so just every freshman kind of what every freshman goes through when they go to college is, life without their parents and being away from home and feeling a little homesick. I think that's homesickness is a very like classic feeling that a lot of people get when they first go to college, and I think I definitely had that for a few weeks. But then I got over it. I mean, I met something that my college had that was really good was an international pre-orientation, and so what they did was they grouped all the international kids together, and they had like a small orientation before the actual full orientation with the entire class, so that the international students can kind of get together and make friends and sort of feel more like they're in that international environment before, being initiated into the broader freshman class. So I thought that was great because I got to meet a lot of people from different backgrounds, and I kind of made like two of my closest friends in that initial period. So I think that was amazing that what the college did. But otherwise, I think it was very, very classic sort of feelings of homesickness. But I think that I was very excited at the same time to be there, and it was definitely a change from what from Gurgaon, from going to school in Delhi and life here as well, because it's such a small town. I was very new to the small American town. I'd never really experienced it before. I'd always, as a kid, I traveled to New York City, LA, these places. So I've seen the big cities, but I've never been to like a small upstate town in New York, and I felt I felt that change, and initially I felt this is a little weird. Where are the people in this town? And it felt like that the college was a big part of the town, that there wasn't much else beyond that. And then as sort of time went on, I got used to the town, and I began to love it because of how kind of peaceful and serene it was. There's a lot of greenery there. I mean, Saratoga is a beautiful place. If anyone ever considers going on a trip upstate, I think Saratoga is like a wonderful area to visit. So I think there was initially that shock of, wow, I'm in a really small town in the U.S., but I definitely got used to that, and I grew to love it.
Yes, that's good to know. And if you were to talk about academics, like settling in, coming in from an American school, I'm sure you're kind of familiar with some teaching styles, but how was it different? What didn't you sort of expect when you got there in the first few semesters at Skidmore?
Well, I think the teaching style was very similar because at AES we had pretty much mostly American staff, American teachers, and the faculty was, I would say definitely mostly American. And so a lot of the teaching methods that I had experienced there were pretty much, I would say, the same in college. I would say the difference is definitely the workload. I think the workload is definitely different from because in high school I did the IB, and the IB is a pretty grueling program, I would say. But in college it's very different. You have to learn how to manage your time, and it's sort of a different deal in that sense. But I think teaching style, I didn't really see much of a difference. I could compare it to, I had gone to an Indian school for half a year when I lived in Gurgaon back then. And I could definitely see the difference between that and an American teaching style. So I can see like if you're going to the U.S. from being in like an Indian high school, like a more localized academic environment, there will be differences. I think they teach you in college. It's a lot about critical thinking, as opposed to sort of memorization, rote learning, that kind of thing. So I think,
Sure.
yeah.
So what about the business major? How decided were you when you sort of signed up for Skidmore, and how did it pan out in terms of courses and even resources that were available to you in the business program?
Sure. So when I went to Skidmore, I've always kind of been very entrepreneurial, and I've sort of enjoyed learning about startups, and I think that marketing for me has been a very interesting area of business as well. I've always enjoyed one of my favorite movies before going to college was The Social Network, where it talks about how Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook, and I really enjoyed that whole aesthetic of being a college student and owning a startup and working on something, collaborating with others. And I think the business major allows you to do all that and more. And so I always knew from day one that I wanted to be in business. For me, it was definitely more of an aesthetic thing than it was academic. But I think that as I did more business cases and case studies, that kind of thing, as I did more courses, I got a lot more interested in the marketing side, the promotional side of business, as well as the entrepreneurial side, of course, when I started my app with my friends. But Skidmore has a great kind of, their slogan is creative thought matters. And so in my first year of college, I took weird classes like Italian cinema, kind of offbeat stuff. I took, theater classes. What was another one that I took? Entertainment law, something that I'd never experienced before. And these classes, while they weren't business, they definitely translated into my business major. So even though I was zoned into doing business, I think that the whole setup of giving you different courses in your first year definitely helped me to translate some of that knowledge to my business major. So I think anyone could go into college not knowing what they want to do and then figure it out. But for me, I definitely was skewing towards business initially.
Fantastic. So if you were to compare, and if you know friends at, say, at NYU Stern or a Wharton or a big school like a Berkeley Haas or a USC Marshall, where the number of business students, major students who are interested in the business major would be huge compared to Skidmore. What do you think is similar to the business education you got at Skidmore, and what's different?
So in Skidmore, because the campus was so small, one thing that I prioritize, and I think we had discussed this a lot when we were working together on my application, was small class size. It's something that I kind of prioritized when I was looking at colleges. And so I think Skidmore, in the business major, the class size was around 20, 30 kids. And that helped a lot because I could approach the professor. We could have debates with the professor, and it wasn't like you're in a big auditorium where you might not feel as confident asking certain questions, or you might not feel like your voice is really being heard by the professor. You might not feel that close to the professor. So I think that's a big difference that I would say, even just talking to some of my friends at bigger business schools, that they felt is that the classes were a bit more impersonal in that sense. So I think that's something that I really liked, is that I got to know my professors, beyond just like an academic environment, just being able to visit their office hours and say, hey, I have a question on this assignment. I have a question about this exam, and feeling like there's a relationship there.
So the business major is supposed to have that practicum feel, right? Case studies and group collaborations, which students at, say, larger schools take pride in the fact that maybe they have access to professors who are practitioners from the city that they live in. Do you see that there was a big difference in what Skidmore offered in the business program, or was it as good or similar to, a good university in a city?
I think it would be similar in what you're describing with the collaborations and the case studies. I think I did a lot of teamwork in Skidmore, and that was kind of the main skill in business that you learn pretty early on. I think my first course there was this very famous course at Skidmore called MB 107. That's the course module number, but the name is it's just sort of an intro to business management. And what they do is they set you up at the end of the course. They set you up with a team of people, and you're working for weeks on end, or like a long time with the same group of people on this one presentation, this one project that you present to real business executives at the end of the course. So that I found very interesting, because I don't think you have courses like that you can take so early on in the business major, because I was a freshman presenting a marketing plan in front of real executives, who actually knew what they were talking about, and so it was very nerve-wracking. But I think that was something that I really liked about the Skidmore business major, is that they set you up with that early on, so you get a feel for what collaboration means in business, for how do you deal with people in a team, because that's also hard. I think that it's never easy. Sometimes you don't get the brightest people. Sometimes you don't get people who have a great work ethic, and you have to find your way to work around that. So I think that course really shaped my vision for what I wanted to do at Skidmore. So
wonderful. Yeah. So I know you were really interested in music and DJing. You took that to a new level when you were at Skidmore. And also, I remember discussing a business idea when you came back one summer. So tell us a little bit about your interest in music, and then how did you take that to think of a new business within that? And eventually, of course, graduated, maybe not continuing that business. So it's the entrepreneurial mindset that you developed. What resources, who influenced you, who helped you out, and things like that.
Sure, of course. So my interest in music has been sort of a lifelong passion of mine. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to play guitar and drums, and then I moved on to being more digital, more electronic with my music style. I started listening to more electronic music, more hip hop as well, heavily into that. And I started DJing and producing music as well in high school. And when I came to college, I thought, what better way to meet people with similar interests than join the DJ club, which is something that they had on campus at the time. And I joined the club, and I really enjoyed sort of networking with the people there. And I eventually became president in my sophomore year. And me and my friends sort of took charge of the club, and we started doing events on campus, doing events downtown in some of the bars, some of the clubs there. And it was a great experience. I think that really shaped a lot of what I experienced in college, a lot of the great times that I've had in college. And it taught me a lot about event management, a lot about music. And I think in one of the events, we had this paper sign that said, on one of the food stands, that said contains nuts for some, for allergies. And we were receiving a lot of requests from the audience. The audience was saying, can you play this song? Can you play that song? And part of the issue with being a DJ is that sometimes you don't have requests in your software. And so you have to turn them down. And so what we did was one of my friends took the sign, the contains nuts sign, he puts it on our stand and says, anyone has a request, please write it down here. And so after that, something kind of clicked, where I thought, why don't we have an app that takes song requests to make this process a lot more seamless? Instead of just having someone come up to the DJ and say, yell at them, can you play this song? Instead of that, just have a very seamless way where the audience can request a song in the app, and then the DJ can see it and they can say, okay, accept, deny, So, and I was already working with one of my friends who was a fellow business major, and he and I had started another business beforehand, making this salad dressing, and that tanked pretty fast. And so I came to him with this idea, because we were thinking of doing a website for DJs where they can play remotely. They can play live sets from their remote locations. And then Spotify had that idea, so we decided to give up on that. And then I said, why don't we pivot to this app idea? And we had another one of our friends got on board. So it was the three of us. And we said, okay, why don't we take this to the business competition? Because at Skidmore, they have an annual competition for entrepreneurs to sort of pitch their ideas to real executives, real judges who eventually become your investors. And so we pitched this app idea in our sophomore year, and the next year and the next year. So pretty much till we graduated, we've been pitching this idea, and we managed to get a couple of investors. We got all the seed money for app development. We connected with an alumni who was an app developer who helped us with the app development. So it really helped us network. It connected me with a whole world of people that I would probably have never met if I never started this, never had the idea for this app. And so we did competitions in New York State as well as Skidmore, and it went well. It was a great experience. But I think now that we've all graduated, we need some job security, and so we're kind of putting that on hold for now.
Sure.
But it's been a fantastic experience. We've done all kinds of events, promotional events, and it's taught me a lot about business that I don't think I would have learned in an academic environment.
Fantastic. So how is it like being a graduate now and been working for 2 years? What are the things that you use from your education and translate into your current work? And what is your current role?
Sure. So after I graduated, I worked for an advertising agency in New York City, and I was a sales marketing coordinator. And so what that means is I structured pitch decks and sort of marketing plans for clients. And I have to. It involved a lot of collaboration and a lot of a lot of marketing skills where you're able to kind of gauge what the client wants, build a marketing plan, collaborate with creative strategists and other people in the organization. And I thought that above anything else, I think that the case studies that I did in college really helped me with my marketing role, because what you see, a lot of the jargon that's used in marketing is used in a lot of these case studies, and because the case studies don't exactly discriminate, they don't say like, okay, you're a freshman, let's dumb down the case study for you. Like the case study is going to be the same no matter what. And so in Skidmore, one of our professors, she would give us a Harvard business case study pretty much like every week, every a couple of days or so to study. And so that taught me a lot about, different kinds of industries, what the marketing language. I took an advertising course at Skidmore as well that taught me a lot of these different terms like cost per click, CPC, a video completion rate, that kind of thing. And so I think that those two things taught me a lot, because that's the avenue that I wanted to get into. After the problem with that was that I couldn't get my H-1B sponsored because they don't really do sponsorships for marketing-based roles. They do it for more tech-based jobs, that kind of thing. And so I moved back here last October. Last October. I moved back to Gurgaon last October, and I started working in fintech, and that's widely different from marketing. But I realized that there's no reason to limit yourself to what you think you should be doing, because you could always find something that you eventually become passionate about that's very different from what you thought initially. So, if there's any piece of advice I would give to anyone graduating college, is that don't feel like you have to limit yourself to advertising or just a specific industry, unless you're very passionate about it. But I think that a lot of people don't know what they're doing after they graduate, which I think I relate to. It's not like I was looking for an advertising agency right out the bat. So try different things. I'm in a fintech position right now. I'm doing business development and partnerships for them, and so that, and a bit of a marketing role as well. So what that means is that I am basically in sales, more of a sales-oriented role, as well as marketing. So a bit similar to my old role, where it's a mix of sales and marketing, but this is a little more sales-oriented. And it's fascinating. I think that I'm learning a lot about how digital payments here work, because India is has huge growth in digital payments, especially now with coronavirus happening. People aren't really going out and spending in cash and touching money and things anymore. So digital payments are kind of on the rise, and that's kind of my sector. Is we work with this Swedish company called Crunchfish, and what they do is they have this very cool device that allows digital app payments. So if you have a Google Pay or you have a Paytm, Android Pay, Samsung Pay, whatever payment app you have, you kind of just bring your phone close to this device and it just flips the whole payment through. And so that's PG&E is kind of a conglomerate where we work with different clients. That's one of the clients we work with, and we have other projects in different spaces. But I think that what this is helping me learn is that a lot about the Indian economy, a lot about how digital payments here work, and I think that that's a very interesting sector to be in. And I'm happy that I'm here right now. I'm happy I'm working.
Fascinating. Yeah, I think the way you've connected the dots from what you learned in school to sales, marketing in very different setups and two different locations, New York and Gurgaon. Excellent. So if I'm going to switch gears and get to rapid fire questions, if you were to look at your life during the lockdown, what are the reflections that you have? What are the 2 or 3 things that you want to change or have changed about yourself?
Well, I think that in the lockdown, I would say it's good to kind of take a breather. There's definitely, working from home, you have a little more time on your hands because you don't have to kind of wake up and go to an office, go to work. So I think that it's good in a sense. You get some time to maybe work on other things. I've had a little more time to work on music these days, which is very nice. I think in terms of changes, I'm not quite sure because I'm still a bit new to my current role, and I haven't really. I started to get a hang of it kind of before this COVID-19 situation hit, so I feel like I have still a long way to go in terms of really gauging my productivity and sort of seeing how I can get clients and how I can add to the business. So I think right now, I think that we're all pretty much doing what we can, and I think in terms of advice, think of this time as like almost like a rest period in a way, where you can kind of take some time to maybe do some meditation at home or work on some of your passions, and then start once everything starts opening up, then you get back to life. You maybe gain some skills during this time, take some online courses. That's kind of what I've been doing. But I don't think there's anything. I think if anything, the COVID is kind of it's a tough situation. But people are kind of working through it day by day. So I know it's a rapid question, but that was a long answer.
That's fine. So I'll ask you this one, which will make you restrict to just saying 3 words.
Okay.
So if you had 3 adjectives to describe your strengths, what would it be?
Creativity, work ethic, say team oriented, or
Great.
able to work well in a team and collaborate.
Super. Another question, which is related to, as a budding entrepreneur, someone who's tried all of that in college, there's always a disappointment or even embarrassing moments or failures. So disappointments, failures, embarrassing moments. So tell us a little bit about what you learned from those situations.
Well, I think that the best part of starting a business in college is that there's not much pressure because you're already kind of in college doing what you're supposed to do, and it's not like you've quit college to start a company, or you've graduated and you're starting a company now, and that you have to, there's not much stress in that sense. It's kind of, we treat it as more of a very fun project to work on. Obviously we were very serious about the business, but I think that if the business didn't really work out, let's say midway through college, it wouldn't have been, a complete disaster where we spent all our money on it. We moved all our savings into the business. It was very, in that sense, there wasn't, I'm trying to look for the phrase here. There wasn't that much of a risk. And so in that sense, a lot of our failures and disappointments in the business were things that we took as points to work on. We didn't really, it wasn't something that we were very pressured with. And I think that we did the best that we could with the time that we had, especially with other courses going on. But I think when you're an entrepreneur and you're pitching your idea, no one is really going to tell you, especially if you're asking your friends, no one's going to tell you, wow, your business sucks, So it's up to you to figure out whether there's demand or not for your product. Obviously, judges will tell you things very straight up, but in the end, you're responsible for how successful your business will become in terms of the idea. And I think that that's what I learned, is that people will never be like fully direct with you. They'll give you certain pieces of advice, but they'll never tell you like, you can't do this. This is not what you're supposed to do. There's no demand for this product, because they don't want to demotivate you, especially you're a college student. So, make sure that this is like the right business for you and kind of the right industry to be in. And for me, I never felt like we made any mistakes or disappointed with anything, because like I said, we all were passionate about music, and we turned that passion into a business. And there's no way that there's nothing I would have changed about the way we did things. Of course, we didn't win the business competition every year. So there were always things to work on. But I think that those things helped us sort of change our business plan, change the way we went about things, made us even more successful, because we had those criticisms, we had those disappointments, we had those failures.
That's fantastic. There's a whole entrepreneurial mindset that you represent through this journey. Well said, that as a student, you can take all the risk in, of course, a contained way where you don't have to lose everything that you have in terms of finances. So I'm sure this has been will be an interesting listen for our students who are interested in entrepreneurship, in understanding liberal arts colleges, studying business. So thank you so much for your time, Dhruv, and look forward to following your journey henceforth. We will also be having several panels, and I want to take this opportunity to invite you to the one which we'll have on startups and even marketing and in general music business, if that's something that we have a few students every year who do electronic music production, so it'd be interesting to hear all of you kind of connect. So thank you.
Oh, no, that'd be great. That sounds amazing. No, it's really good to catch up, and I look forward to any events that Ed Brand has, because I definitely would want to see what other people are doing in the music industry and entrepreneurship. And yeah, no, that sounds great.
Super.